So welcome everyone. Oops. Welcome everyone to the 9th part of Bhakti Basics, and we missed the last one a couple of weeks ago, but we're back together again. So nice to see everyone. We can start with Jai Bhuwani. So shall I do that? Or anyone else? Jai Shishi Guru Granga Gandhava Jai Shivadhi Jai. Vishwad Astata Sada Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Vishwad Astata Sada Shishimad Bhakti Vigyan Bhavati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nityalila Vishwad Astata Sada Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Shilavaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nityalila Vishwad Astata Sada Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nichalila Vishwampada Astata Sada Shishima Bhakti Pagyana Keshu Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichalila Vishwampada Astata Sada Shishila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ma Bhagavad Shislako Kishodas Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Sachidansh Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babadi Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupanukuva Ki Jai. Shri Rupsanatan Bhattavagana, Shri Jiva Gopalapadas Ragana, Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sriptamadaya Ramananda Dishko Prashad Vind Ki Jai. Namacharish Laharidas Thakur Ki Jai. Praise Sakar Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadishko Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Navaduptam Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopa Govardhana Shivan Amaka Shiva Manda Ki Jai. Shri Sham Kunvada Kunimuna Gangatos Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Yogamaya Purnamasi Devi Ki Jai. Shrimati Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Gopishvama Devi Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Baldev Spashastashan Ju Ki Jai. Shri Nishinga Bhagavan Prabhu Ki Jai. Bhaktavraj Blad Maharaj Ki Jai. Charadam Charasamadaya Chari Chari Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. So we'd like to begin with Krishna Priyadidi. We'd like to start with your again. Which one is it? So if anyone wants to join in, they can.
Sure. Radha Krishna Pranamora by Srila Narottam Das Thakur, page 123 of the Sri Gaudiya Giti Gucha.
Brilliant.
Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Gaura Prastaya Utale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Vani Iti Namini Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Radha Krishna Pranamora Jugala Kishora Radha Krishna Pranamora Jugala Kishora Jivane Marane Gati Aranahi Mora Radha Krishna Pranamora Jugala Kishore Kalindira Kule Kali Kadambera Bhana Ratana Bedira Upar Vosabodhu Jana Radha Krishna Pranamora Jugala Kishora Shyama Gaurayange Devo Chandanera Ganda Shyama Gaurayanga Devo Chandanera Gandha Chamara Dulabo Kabe Heri Bomukha Chandra Radha Krishna Pranamora Jugala Kishora Gatiya Malatir Mala Dibodo Har Kale Gatiya Malatir Mala Dibodo Har Kale Adhare Tuliya Dibo Karpura Tambule Radha Krishna Pranamora Jugala Kishora Lalita Vishakari Jato Sakhi Vrinda Lalita Vishakari Jato Sakhi Vrinda Agnyaya Koribo Seva Charanara Vrinda Radha Krishna Pranamora Jugala Kishora Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Dasiranu Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Dasiranu Seva Abhilasha Kare Narottama Dasa Radha Krishna Pranamora Jugala Kishora Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Nityananda Gauranga Gaura Hari Nityananda Gauranga Gaura Hari Jaya Radha Krishna Jaya Radha Krishna Jaya Radhe Jaya Radha Krishna Jaya Radha Krishna Jaya Radhe Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Yeah. Very beautiful, very sweet. One of my favorite bhajans. Radha Krishna Pranama, so nice meaning. And very appropriate for today's topic as well, on Bhakti Tattva. So before I begin, I'll just say my Mangala Charana. Omagina Tamandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshumlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyapane Shishima the Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Nityanamine Ananda Lilamaya Vikrahaya Hemapyadivyakchavisandaya Tasmama Prema Rasa Padaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Shama Sundara Sikanda Shekara Smarahasa Murali Manoha Vadikara Sikamam Kripanidhi Swapriya Charana Kinkarim Karu Tavai Vashmi Najivami Twayavina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantike Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Shiptas Takama Ditarangamaje Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Papanam Vrinde Namaste Charana Vindam Panchakapadvipyasta Kripa Sindhabe Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shikor Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So before I begin, I'd like to offer my humble, most respectful obeisances. Time and time again, offer my heart like flowers at the dust of the lotus feet of my Gurudev on Vishnu Padastata Satashishi Mad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And at the same time, offer my humble, most respectful obeisances time and time again at the dust of the lotus feet of my Param Gurudevs Nitya Lila Vishnupad Astata Satashishi Mad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada and Nitya Lila Vishnupad Astata Satashishi Mad Bhakti Gyan Keshava Goswami Maharaj. And to all Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, offer my Dandavat pranams. And to all assembled devotees here, please accept my humble obeisances. So, welcome everyone to the 9th part of Bhakti Basics, where we'll be discussing Bhakti Tattva. We'll give an introduction. So what I've heard from my Gurudev and our Rupanuga Guru Varga, or Vaishnavas, I'll try to repeat. But before we do, last time we were discussing Madhyam Adhikari Vaishnavas and Uttama Adhikari Vaishnavas, their characteristics, symptoms. So I wonder if, maybe first, Manini Radha Didi, could you give a brief summary of the characteristics of Madhyam Adhikari Vaishnava, and then maybe Shamali Didi can give an introduction, a summary on the characteristics of Uttama Adhikari Vaishnava.
Yes, Haribol, Dandavat, So last week, or whenever we were, the last time we gathered, which seems like weeks, months ago, we were talking about the different levels. So there's three levels, general categories of devotees. Like there's, or an adhikar means eligibility. And I have some people here as well, Chadu, so I'm just sharing a little bit more. So Kanista is like the basic level, like when you have a basic eligibility. And Madhyam, which she's referring to, is when you start to advance. And so Charu was very kind to kind of group that progress into three categories. So someone can be somewhat advanced according to Shraddha and realization of Shastra, which is like faith and your understanding of as you're reading the scriptures. And that is someone who is not very expert in argument, like they can't quote chapter and verse per se, but they have the conceptions, the argument, the logic based on the revealed scriptures, and they have firm faith, and that's considered like a second-class devotee. And must consider themselves very fortunate because, you know, we're advancing. The thing about Madhya Madhikar is that you could fall down from being a Madhyam. Like a Kanista is just trying to get steady, trying to have faith, trying to just grasp it, doesn't have any conception of like who's who, can't recognize necessarily other levels of Vaishnavas. But a Madhyam is beginning to have some concepts and they can fall down, and Uttama will never fall down. Like an Uttama is a Mahabhagavat, they will never fall down. So one category of being Madhyam is in faith and in realization of scripture. The second is in chanting Harinam. So a person who's always chanting the holy name of the Lord is considered a first-class Vaishnava, and we should serve their lotus feet. It says like they're chanting without ceasing and without offense, right? But a Madhyam may, working their way towards that. Is that fair to say, Charu?
They're continuously chanting. Yeah.
Continuously chanting. Okay, so they are continuously chanting, but it may not be pure. It's not pure yet per se, but they might be chanting a boss. They might be hopefully not chanting Namaparad, but they are trying to chant without ceasing. And then the last category is attachment and love. And someone can be at a medium level where a Madhyam Bhagavat is one who has love for Ishvara, for Bhagavan, and the pure devotees. They're friendly toward other devotees and they show mercy towards those who know less than them. They try to help them along, and they show honor to those who are more advanced, and those who are inimical or who are like, not helping your bhakti advance, then you will like just say Dandavat Pramanams from afar, and neglect them actually. You don't invest energy, you just neglect. And so the interesting thing about the Madhyam, like the Kanisa Adhikari cannot necessarily recognize, like I said, who's who. The Uttama Bhagavat, which Shamali will elaborate more on, actually, they see everyone as serving Krishna. So they don't necessarily try to, interfere with that. It's the Madhyam level. Sometimes those Uttamas will come down to a Madhyam level in order to be guru, to help those of us along who need some guidance. And so they're qualified to serve Vaishnavas and to try to advance Mahaprabhu's mission. Is that good? I don't want to step too much into Shamali's area and let her have plenty to speak on with Uttamas. Yeah. But if Charu, if there's anything that I left out of that review, please elaborate, because it's been a few weeks.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good. Yeah.
Okay, Dandavats.
Right. Okay, thanks, Didi. And Shamali, Didi, you would like to say something about Uttamadikari Vaishnava?
Dandavats, Charu Chandrika. Yes, I'll speak a little bit, so I'll pay my obeisances to Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmei Shri Gurave Namaha. And Nama Om Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Iti Namane. So that was very nice. So as you said, that Madhyam may not be well versed in Shastra. An Uttam is completely versed in revealed Shastra and has firm faith in Sri Krishna, and he's classified as the topmost devotee. And through his bhajan, through his realization of Shastra, this is a devotee who is constantly chanting, who is considered an Uttama. And
chanting Sudanam.
Sudanam, yes, not creating any offenses, and it's a pure heart, purely chanting the name. And he inspires just by his mere sight, the chanting of the holy name. His very presence is very, very inspiring. And he also has this vision that Manini referred to, that he sees his Ishtadev in everyone's heart and makes no discrimination, because he sees Krishna everywhere. At the same time, he will come down, as she said, to the Madhyam level to make distinctions. And as she expertly said, he has three ways of interacting. He bestows mercy to those that are ignorant. He is inimical to those that are inimical. He ignores, and those that are first-class devotees he associates with and distributes prem. So and it's like, how do we know? We're looking at how to distinguish and how to know, recognize an Uttama Bhakta. And one of the things that's so amazing about them is not only are they completely versed in Shastra and always chanting the pure name, they're also extremely humble. And actually, visually it might be hard to distinguish. They don't really show their effulgence so easily. But so you could easily miss it. So it's only through their understanding, realizations and understandings and their bhajan that we really understand where they are internally. So it's I hope that satisfies as a review. Is there anything else that I should?
That's very good, very condensed and very nice. Thank you so much, Shamala Didi and Manini Radha Didi. You always give very nice summaries, so it's always good to go over it. We need to hear again and again and again, like Gurudev would always say. So I can begin, I think. Shamali Didi, Krishna Priya Didi, if you could start sharing the slides. Okay. Thanks, Didi. Okay, so today we are going to discuss an introduction to Bhakti Tattva. So Bhakti Tattva, or the truths of Bhakti, pure devotion. This subject is very vast. We really need to kind of give an introduction, lay a foundation, and we'll see how much we get through today. Okay. All right. So we can start on the first slide. That's great. Okay. 1 second. All right. So what I thought we'd do is we'd discuss first of all, different processes to attain the goal of life. So in different schools, there's some schools who practice karma yoga, some schools who practice jnana yoga, like this. So just to kind of get an understanding of the yoga ladder as it's explained in Bhagavad Gita very nicely. So first of all, karma. So we hear this word a lot, and the general populace have got to know this word as like, karma. You get your reaction if you do any kind of action in this world. You'll get an equal and opposite reaction. If you do something good, you get a good reaction. If you do something bad, you get a bad reaction. But obviously this word has many meanings, and we'll try to delve into the different meanings today. So, number one, karma means activity, action in general. And the second meaning is that it's work that's prescribed in the Vedas. So there's pious activity performed in accordance with the Vedic injunctions, leading to material gain in this world or in the heavenly planets after death. So the Vedas are very vast, and there's many instructions in the Vedas. Some instructions are there for those in the mode of ignorance or tamagun. Some instructions are there for those in the mode of passion or rajagun. And some instructions are there for those in the mode of goodness or sattvagun. And even those who are at least aspiring to go beyond the modes of material nature. So that would be knowledge of bhakti, or even those who are on the transcendental platform They will look to the Vedas, the essence of the Vedas, like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, for that knowledge of Bhakti. But anyway, we'll begin from the beginning. So Karma Kanda, that's there in the Vedas. It's a division of the Vedas that involves the performance of ceremonial acts and sacrificial rites directed towards attaining material benefits in this world or the heavenly planets, or to attain liberation. Okay, I think that is quite clear. Yeah, so there's many people, especially in India, who follow the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, and they worship different demigods. They may worship Lord Shiva or Durga, Ganesh, like this, to get some kind of material gain. But this is not recommended ultimately, because even if one attains the heavenly planets, then one will have to eventually fall back down to this earthly region. And again, being entangled in the modes of nature, being entangled in various karma, action, reaction. Ultimately, we want to become free from this. So karma yoga. Karma yoga means yoga through the path of action. So that's the path of spiritual realization in which the fruit of one's work is offered to Bhagavan. Okay, so this is a step in the right direction, but again, it's not the ultimate goal. So you're at the kind of bottom rung of the yoga ladder if you're practicing karma yoga. Okay, Nishkam Karma Yoga means performing one's prescribed duties without attachment to the results. Well, that's even higher. So it's much better. Anyway, I wanted to say something about this in general. So by following the path of karma, you can attain the heavenly planets. And by following the path of jnana, one can attain liberation. So in Bhagavad Gita, we know there's 18 chapters. And that means there's 18 different types of knowledge. Now, the whole Bhagavad Gita, it's divided into 3 sections, you could say. There's 3 divisions. And each of those divisions consist of 3 chapters. So not 3 chapters, sorry, 6 chapters. There's 6 chapters in each of those 3 divisions. So the first 6 chapters, the first division is explaining Karma Yoga. The last 6 chapters are explaining Jnana Yoga. And the middle 6 chapters is explaining Bhakti Yoga. So one may wonder, why is it that the middle 6 chapters is explaining Bhakti Yoga and not the last 6 chapters? Because generally we see that in many books and texts, that there's a gradation. So it starts from the bottom, middle, and what's the ultimate goal is there in the end of the book, you would think. But no, with Bhagavad Gita, it's the middle 6 chapters. Why? Because you could see Bhagavad Gita as like a treasure chest. And the middle 6 chapters, which are explaining Sudha Bhakti, pure devotion, then this is compared to be like Chintamani, as very, very precious gemstone. And it's there in the middle, like in a treasure chest. The treasure is in the middle, is inside. So it's inside because it's very confidential. And the base of the treasure chest is Nishkam Karma Yoga, which is they're performing one's prescribed duties without attachment to the results. So karma yoga, but Niskama karma yoga ultimately. And of course, the top, the lid, is Jnana yoga. So that's somewhat higher, but we're interested in what is inside the treasure chest of Bhagavad Gita, because that is the ultimate goal of life. It's the means to attain the goal and the goal of life itself, Bhakti Yoga, Sudha Bhakti. So let's go on to the next slide, please. Okay. So again, we're talking about the different processes to attain the goal of life. And now we can say something about Jnana Yoga. So what is Gyan? Gyan is knowledge in general. And second meaning is Brahma Gyan. That means knowledge which is based on the soul's distinction from matter and its identity with Brahm, that leads to impersonal liberation. Okay, so this is impersonal knowledge here, Brahma Gyan. And then Sambandha Gyan means transcendental knowledge of one's relationship with Krishna. So it's this kind of knowledge that we really want. So Jnana Yoga means yoga through transcendental knowledge, and it's the path of spiritual realization through a philosophical search for truth. So, so this Jnana Yoga is talked about in the last 6 chapters, as I said, and it's explained. Atapi te deva padam bhuja dvaya prasada lesanu guhit eva hi janatvi tatvam bhagavan mahimno nachanya eko pi chiram vichimvan. So it means, this is Lord Brahma's prayer. He says, my Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of your mercy, the mercy of your lotus feet, then he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. So according to this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, even Lord Brahma himself, who's the creator of the whole entire universe, cosmic manifestation, then he performed mature meditation for 1,000 years. In fact, no, not just earthly years, but 1,000 celestial years. That's very, very long time. But still, he said, I come to know that the glories of the Supreme Soul are certainly inconceivable. So by our mind and intelligence, we cannot possibly understand the absolute truth. Even people have speculated on the absolute truth for many thousands of years, many lifetimes even, and still they haven't really got to realize the absolute truth. So, therefore, what is the process to understand and realize the absolute truth? This is what we're discussing today. So even Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, their means to attain Brahm. That means this Brahm again, this transcendental knowledge. But Bhakti Yoga is the only means to attain Bhagavan Shri Krishna. So you could say the preliminary stage of Bhakti Yoga is called Karma Yoga. That's the first stage. Then when one progresses further on the path of karma, one attains the intermediate stage, and that is Jnana Yoga. And then one when one's practicing Jnana Yoga, then the mature and elevated stage of Jnana Yoga is Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga is the top rung of the yoga ladder, and that's what we're aspiring for. Now, someone could say, do you have to practice Karma Yoga and then Jnana Yoga to enter Bhakti Yoga? No, you don't, but often people do. You know, there are those stages. You can directly practice Bhakti Yoga, and within Bhakti, Karma and Gyan are included. So Bhakti is more rarely attained than Karma or Jnana Yoga, and on the path of Karma and Jnana, then the mental purity of the practitioner and the purity of the ingredients and the purity of the place are vital to the success of that practice. And if there's any fault, any impurity there in the practitioner himself, or the purity of the ingredients or the place, then that will hinder the progress or the success of the practitioner. Therefore, you know, if there is some like mistake on the path of Karma or Gyan, then, you know, that could even lead to ruination on the practitioner in this life or the next, this world and the next. But even if someone perfectly practices this Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, then still there won't be any fruit unless one incorporates Bhakti Yoga. So unless there's some touch of Bhakti Yoga in his practice of Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, then it's not possible for the practitioner to attain success on those paths. And this is very nicely explained by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Madhurya Kanda Bini, the first chapter, I think, first, second chapter, like that. So the practices of Karma and Gyan, they are very difficult and troublesome, but the path of Bhakti is very simple and easy. So, and like I said, Bhakti must be mixed with Karma and Gyan in order to gain success, gain the goal of Karma and Gyan. So in Bhakti Yoga, it's very easy, you know, even if there's some faults, mistakes, some fall down, anything, then it doesn't matter so much, because whatever progress one makes on the path of Bhakti, that will always go with him. Like said in the second chapter, I think, of Bhagavad Gita, it's verse Neho Bhikramanaso Si Pachavayo Navidyate Svalpamasya Dharmasya Trayashro Mate Bayat. So endeavors on the path of Bhakti are neither fruitless nor subject to any kind of faults. Even a little practice of Bhakti, even little perfection of Bhakti, then that will free one from the greatest type of fear. So that means the fear of falling down into material existence. So like I said, when one practices meditation, one practices yoga, even little mistake, it may seem very insignificant, but as a consequence, that person will not attain the desired result. But only Bhakti Yoga, this is actually completely nirguna. Nirguna means free from the influence of the material qualities of sattva-gun, rajagun, and tamagun. It means goodness, passion, and ignorance. So even if one begins to practice Bhakti, but for some reason his practice remains incomplete, he doesn't make it all the way, still there's no defect, there's no fault at all in his endeavors. Like I said, even if he falls down, he won't face any misfortune. in this life, in this world, nor in the next. So that's why Bhakti Yoga is so superior to Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. So now we can go on to the next slide. Okay, questions. Before we go on to Bhakti Yoga, let's see what everyone's remembered. Did you mind, Krishna Priya, did you just go briefly back to the first couple of slides? No. Thank you. Just okay. So just have a look. What is karma? What is karma kanda? What is karma yoga? And what is Niskama karma yoga? So these are all terms that we'll find in many places in the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, but we should try to know their meanings. Okay, and then we can go on to the next slide. So we come to jnana. What is Gyan? Different types of knowledge, ordinary knowledge, general knowledge, Brahma Gyan, Sambandha Gyan. And what is Jnana Yoga? Yoga through transcendental knowledge. That's the meaning. Okay. So then you can see who's remembered what. Punamai did he?
All right, so the first question, let's see here. We'll just go in gallery view, and then if you would like to answer, please raise your hand. So the first question is, what are the 3 different meanings of karma? So 3 different meanings of karma. There are 3 different descriptions of karma mentioned.
The word karma.
On the first slide, word karma.
Okay.
Anini.
Okay, the first definition is just activity in general, or fruit of activity. The second is work as prescribed in the Vedas. Does that mean, I just want to clarify, just to make sure I understand, does that mean dharma, like doing your prescribed duties?
I mean, it includes that, yeah.
It includes dharma, okay. And then the third definition is pious activity that is performed in accordance with the Vedic injunctions to gain a result that is, material or the heavenly planets. Like we read in the scriptures, there's, you do certain things like perform certain sacrifices, or if you're following Ekadashi for material like gain, would that be considered also that kind of pious karma?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so now the second question, what is karma kanda specifically? So the question is, what is karma kanda? Would anybody like to have a go at that one? Manini, you just kind of touched on it with your last explanation, I think. Did you want to perhaps explain that again?
No, I saw Shamali had her hand raised. Let's let her answer that one. Haribol.
Oh, Shamali?
Yeah, Haribol. Karma Kanda is doing fruitive activities for a material result, whether it's wealth or attaining the heavenly planets.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Okay, the next question, what is karma yoga and what is Niskama karma yoga? So what is karma yoga and what is Niskam karma yoga?
Haribol, this is Yashoda Dasi, and she would like to try to answer.
Yeah, so karma yoga is, I guess, the path to spiritual realization. I'm kind of reading the notes here.
That's okay.
In relation to the fruit of the work being offered to Bhagavan.
Yes, that's correct. Very good.
Can I just make a question? That's basically, would that be considered seva then? Is another way to think of karma yoga?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to go on to different types of bhakti. So that would be considered one type of bhakti in one sense.
Okay.
but especially Niskam Karma Yoga is more considered a type of.
That's what I was really going to ask. This is Nishkam Karma Yoga,
Yeah.
where you're really, so if Karma Yoga is offering the results to God, so to speak, Nishkam Karma Yoga is when you don't have attachments to the result. It's like we say to try as bhakti, but if we're not attached, basically we're offering it in seva. That is Nishkam Karma Yoga.
Yeah, so Nishkam Karma Yoga, you're not attached to the work, you're not attached to the results of the work, especially because most people do things to get some result in this world. You know, everyone's motivated by, you know, their material desires. If, you know, someone's very materialistic, they may want to get $1 million. So they work very hard for that aim. But in Bhakti, you know, you're working and you're offering the results all to Bhagavan, and you're not attached to those results. So that's Nishkam.
So that is like you're moving toward that Anyabilasita Sunyam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not completely Anyabilasita Sunyam, because that's
Okay. You know, that's the ultimate, but working, that's why I say working toward Anyabilasita.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Haribol.
Haribol. Okay.
Okay, the next question is, what are the 3 meanings of Gyan? So the word Gyan, what are the 3 meanings of the word Gyan? Shamali.
Haribol, hopefully I'll get this right, but it's the 3 meanings of Gyan is knowledge, Brahma Gyan, knowledge of the universe, knowledge of the absolute, those sorts of things come in that. Brahma Gyan is the striving for impersonal liberation, and Sambandha Gyan is knowledge of Sri Krishna, seeking a relationship with Krishna.
Right. Yeah, so even Atma Tattva, that will, you know, that can even come into that Gyan, Tattva Gyan, you know, that I am different to my body. I am eternal spirit soul. My body is made of matter. I am made of spirit, like that. So this is Gyan and Jnana Yoga.
I'm sorry, you're saying Brahma Yoga is like equivalent to
Jnana Yoga.
Tattva Gyan.
Jnana Yoga.
Jnana Yoga.
It's like classic yogic philosophy is what you're talking about. I mean, you know, like Samkhya philosophy and that sort of thing.
Yeah, Sankhya philosophy is there, but even, you know, just kind of general knowledge, transcendental knowledge that I am not this body. You know, I am eternal spirit soul. I'm different to the body. Body is made of matter. I am made of spirit. I'm spirit soul, like that. So that's also Gyan. But
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, is it fair to say that true knowledge actually is in relationship to Bhagavan?
Yeah, exactly.
That's basically it. Anything like everything else is sort of information. That's how I look at it. There's information, then there's knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So true knowledge is that which is in relation to.
To
I mean, in one sense, all knowledge is either directly or indirectly related to Bhagavan. Everything, all knowledge comes from Bhagavan. But the knowledge, you know, with which we can progress towards Bhagavan, let's say that's true knowledge.
Jai, thank you, Haribol. But I mean, I'm making that distinction because in the world, you know, people will think, oh, I know about like circuits and that's knowledge, or I know about, you know, nutrition, or, you know what I mean? We classify things as knowledge, but in my heart, what I actually have a conception is that real knowledge is connected with Sri Radhakrishna or Bhagavan, let's say, Haribol.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so was that all the questions? Didi?
What is Gyan Yoga? But I think that is a pretty good.
Does anyone want to say what is Jnana Yoga?
Okay, so Gyan Yoga is the seeking of transcendental knowledge. That's what I would say. It's a path by which you can have the realization of philosophical truth.
Yeah, it's a philosophical search for truth.
Philosophical.
It's,
Okay, right. I got that. All right.
so that's like, you know, speculate. It could be speculation, speculative knowledge. You know, the Mayavadis, they may say Brahm is this, or Brahm is not this, you know, not this, not this, not this, like this. So,
Right.
but you know, this is not what we want. We don't want to gain this type of knowledge.
Gyan yoga then defined as the goal of impersonal knowledge then?
Yeah, I mean, impersonalists, they may practice jnana yoga to attain liberation. So yeah.
Okay, because
But then it's said in Bhagavad Gita that after thousands of years or thousands of lives, the jnani will understand that the supreme absolute truth is the cause of all causes and all that is. So gradually, you know, it may be that after so many years of speculation and, you know, the speculative knowledge, then one will finally get realization of, okay, this is the absolute truth, the cause of all causes, the supreme Lord. But that really usually takes association with Vaishnavas. Generally, they wouldn't come to that if they didn't have any kind of association. You know, so that's association with pure Vaishnavas is so important. So yeah. Okay. So then we move on to the slide 5. Okay, so Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga means yoga through pure devotional service, path of spiritual realization through devotional service to Bhagavan Shri Krishna. So Bhakti means Uttama Bhakti or Siddha Bhakti. So Uttama Bhakti means topmost devotion, or Siddha Bhakti means pure devotion. And this is derived from the verbal root bhaj. Bhaj means to serve. So when someone says, oh, I'm doing my bhajan, or he's doing his bhajan, that's actually what bhajan means. Bhajan means serving, and internally that person will be meditating on Radha and Krishna and serving them with their internal swarup, directly serving Radha and Krishna in Braj. So now you know the meaning of bhajan. It is the performance of activities meant exclusively for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna that are done in a favorable mood, saturated with love, and devoid of other desires, and not covered by calm and gyan. That's Bhakti. Now, of course, this is a very condensed definition of the verse Anibalasata Sanyam Gyana Karmanavatam, which is on the next slide. So we can go to that just to get a little bit more elaboration on that. Krishna Priyadidi. Where's she gone? She's not here. Krishna Priyadidi. Ah, okay. Okay. So the definition of Uttama Bhakti, or pure devotional service, which are Srila Gurudev explained again and again and again and again and again all over the world. And he asked devotees to stand up and speak and explain this verse thoroughly. So this is a verse by Srila Rupa Goswami Pad in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anyabalasita sanyam gyana kamana vritam anukulena krishnanu shilanam bhakti uttama. So the meaning is, Uttama Bhakti is the cultivation of activities or the uninterrupted flow of service to Shri Krishna, performed through all endeavors of the body, mind, and speech, as well as through expression of various spiritual sentiments, bhavs that are meant exclusively for the pleasure of Shri Krishna, which is not covered by gyan or calm, and so on. and it is completely free from all desires other than the aspiration to bring happiness to Shri Krishna. So I am not going to go so deeply into this verse, because if we were to go very deeply into the meaning of this verse, it would take, hours, and we don't have so much time. But this verse is explained in many different books, like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu in detail, great detail, and so many other books. It's there in Bhajan Rahasya and elsewhere, but Madhurya Kanda meaning, so many places. So what we can just kind of have a look at, like each and every word, a little bit. So Anya Abhilasa Anya Abhilasita Sunyam. So what does it mean? Anya. Anya means other. And Sunyam means devoid of. So Abhilas means desires. So the first Anibalasita Sunyam means Sunyam devoid of what? Anya, other, all other. Abhilas, desires, except for the desire to serve Shri Krishna, of course. So anavritam, I'll explain first, because that means not covered by. But not covered by what? Preceding that is Gyan and Karma. So Gyan, as we've discussed, is speculative knowledge aimed at impersonal liberation, and Karma, of course, is fruitive activities. So now there's Jnana, Karma, Adi. Adi means and so on. And so on refers to, for example, artificial renunciation or yoga to attain mystic powers or austerities and so on. That's what the word Adi means. So anukulyena, that means with a favorable mood. That's a very important word in this whole verse. Because if one's performing bhakti, but without having that favorable mood, like, someone like Kamsa, he was thinking of Krishna, he was absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, and someone will say, well, that's bhakti, isn't it? Well, no, because it wasn't in a favorable way. He was thinking to kill Krishna, so that is certainly unfavorable. So that's in a favorable mood. It's very important in this verse. So Krishna Anushilanam. So what does that mean? Anushilanam means the cultivation of, and it means Krishna means the cultivation of service to Krishna. So this prefix anu comes a few times in this verse, anu kulyena and anu shilanam. So what does that prefix anu mean? It can mean under guidance, continuous, especially in this context, it means continuous. So it's it's like an unbroken stream of honey. These devotional activities are continuously being performed without any break. So that is real bhakti, because, we might think, oh, I'm performing bhakti. Sometimes I chant, and sometimes I hear Harikatha, and sometimes I do some service to my Thakurji, to my deities. But other times I'm watching TV, and other times I'm, going to play football or whatever it is. So in that sense, it's not continuous. So this is Bhakti Uttama. This is first class devotional service. And this is very rarely achieved. Bhakti is certainly not easy. It's easy, but it's not that easily attainable. If, someone is performing any activities, and they want liberation, for example, their aim is to get liberation. Krishna may say, okay, take liberation. If someone's performing activities to get bhakti, then, really that bhakti has to be this Uttama bhakti. It has to be this pure devotion that is continually performed and purely performed without being covered by karma or Gyan or yoga or mystic perfections or austerities, anything. It's completely pure. So that's the meaning, basically. I mean, we could go into it in so much detail, but I don't want to do that in this session because there's so much more to cover. So we can go on to the next slide. Okay, so we can go into these different definitions of Uttam or Srup Siddha Bhakti, pure devotion. What is Srup Siddha Bhakti, nirguna Bhakti, Niskama Bhakti, sakama Bhakti? So first, Srup Siddha Bhakti. So endeavors purely constituted of Uttama Bhakti. That's the 9 kinds of devotion, Navada Bhakti, like Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing about Krishna, chanting Krishna's holy names, remembering Krishna. This comprises of Srup Siddha Bhakti. So this Srup Siddha Bhakti, it's synonymous with Uttama Bhakti. So sometimes the word Uttama Bhakti is used, sometimes the word Srup Siddha Bhakti is used. It's basically the same meaning. So, in other words, all endeavors of the mind, body, words, as well as various bars, various spiritual sentiments that are performed in service to Shri Krishna, that is meant exclusively for his pleasure and completely devoid of all of the desires other than desire to benefit Shri Krishna, is known as Srup Siddha Bhakti. So it's just another term for, and it's of course to attain Srup Siddhi. It's that in one way, that's why it's called Srup Siddha Bhakti, because it's to attain our internal Swarup, our eternal spiritual form. So then, nirguna Bhakti is devotion that is beyond the influence of or unaffected by the 3 modes of material nature. So that is, again, it's also Srup Siddha Bhakti, it's also Uttama Bhakti, you could say, because there's no effect of the 3 modes of material nature there. It's nirguna, it's completely transcendental to them. So other names of nirguna Bhakti, Srup Siddha Bhakti, Uttama Bhakti, Sudha Bhakti is Kevala Bhakti, which means exclusive Bhakti. Ananya Bhakti, there should be a comma there. Anyway, Ananya Bhakti means like one-pointed Bhakti. And Akinchana Bhakti, means completely selfless Bhakti. Visuddha Bhakti, completely pure Bhakti. So so many different names, the same thing. So Nishkam Bhakti means the performance of Bhakti without desires for material results, similar to Nishkam Karma Yoga. So, and then there's Sakama Bhakti, which is performance of Bhakti for the purpose of satisfying material desires. So let's talk about these different terms. So Srup Siddha Bhakti, these are endeavors that are purely constituted of Uttama Bhakti, and it's characterized by all favorable endeavors comprising of Navada Bhakti, like I said, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, all the different 9 limbs of Bhakti or 5 limbs of Bhakti. So this Srup Siddha Bhakti is described as Kataiva, means Kataiva Sunya means free from any deceit. So therefore, it's devoid of any desire for sense gratification, to attain the heavenly planets, or to attain liberation. So that there's no ulterior motive or desire there. But unless one is completely surrendered to Krishna, then one cannot perform Srupa Siddha Bhakti, cannot enter into Srupa Siddha Bhakti, Uttama Bhakti. But a real sadhak, he only desires to perform prem seva, that means loving service to Krishna, or pure devotional service, Sudha Bhakti, that's devoid of karma and gyan. He has no interest in karma or gyan whatsoever. So how can this be attained? It can only be attained by practicing, hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, remembering Krishna, praying to Krishna, vandanam, padasevanam, marchanam, all these different limbs of bhakti can be attained by this. Or even any one of those limbs of bhakti. Even you don't have to perform every single limb of bhakti, you could just perform one. Like, for example, Sukadeva Goswami became perfected by performing kirtanam, by speaking Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, and Parikshit Maharaj became perfected by performing Shravanam, just one limb of bhakti. He became perfected by that. So if you are doing anything, then you must do it to please Krishna. Gurudev always used to say this: whatever you do, do it to please Krishna. And the verse is there in Bhagavad Gita: whatever you do, whatever you offer or give away, do it as an offering to me, Krishna says. So, for example, if you are sweeping the temple, and you're sweeping the temple, you're cleaning the temple only to please Krishna, that's all you want. You're thinking the whole time, I only want to please Krishna, I only want to please Krishna. Then this sweeping of the temple, it may not be within the 9 limbs of bhakti, it's not there, but it is still counted as Srupa Siddha Bhakti, because it's the mood that one's doing it with, one pointed towards pleasing Krishna. That's the most important thing. So it said, even if one is foolish or has so many faults or shortcomings, even if he merely imitates the acts of devotion, he serves in any way by performing Shravanam, hearing, Kirtanam, chanting, or Shravanam, remembering Krishna, or Padasevanam, serving lotus feet Krishna. Then if he comes in contact with any of these limbs of bhakti, in this Srupa Siddha Bhakti, then he will attain the results of that service, which is pure bhakti. So the examples given of Prahlad Maharaj in his previous life. Now, he was a Brahmana, and somehow he got entangled with one prostitute. So he was living with this prostitute, he was having relation with her, and somehow or another, one day he had a fallout with her. They had an argument, big argument, and they fell out with one another. So they were both very upset, and prostitute was in man, like sulky mood, and she left. And then that Brahmana, who was Prahlad Maharaj in his previous life, he was really upset, sulking, lamenting, and he thought what to do, and he was feeling so much separation from her. And so he thought, I cannot be without her, I must go and find her. So he went into the forest, and he was searching everywhere for her, and then it started to become dark, and he thought, oh no, I don't want to be out in the forest the whole night in the dark. So then somehow he came across a temple, and that temple happened to be an Ashringa Mandir, temple of Nrsingadev. And he went inside and he sat in that temple, and he was lamenting so much and thinking about his partner, and then the whole night passed. He didn't sleep the whole night. He was fasting. He'd been fasting all day and all night. So that day happened to be Nrsinga Chaturdasi. So he got the benefit of being in a Nrsinga temple on Nrsinga Chaturdasi, fasting the whole day and night. And what became of him in his next life, he actually merged into the body of Prahlad Maharaj. So he became Prahlad Maharaj, you could say. And that prostitute, she became his wife. So again, I said, Gurudev says that even a little connection with Rupa Siddha Bhakti, that means, Shravanam, hearing, chanting, remembering, some connection with a temple, like Prahlad Maharaj had that connection with the Nrsingadev temple. He happened to be fasting, doing complete fast but he wasn't even doing it for Nrsingadev, but yet there was some connection there, and he got the benefit. So like that. That's how powerful Bhakti is. That's how powerful following any of the limbs of Bhakti are, knowingly or unknowingly. So then what is Niskama Bhakti, performance of Bhakti without any desires for material results? That is also, quite high, because most people in this world, they have so many material desires and they want material results. They don't realize how futile this path of sakama Bhakti is. That means performance of Bhakti for the purpose of satisfying material desires. So the example of a sakama Bhakta is Dhruva Maharaj. So he performed Bhakti for the purpose of satisfying his material desires. What were his material desires? He performed so many austerities, very, very hard austerities, to attain what? He wanted to attain a kingdom that was greater than his great-grandfather's. So that's, it was his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. So this is like, the whole empire, the whole world, universe like this. And Dhruva, he went to the forest and he cried out, "Oh, Madhusudan, please come to me and fulfill my desire. I want to sit on my father's throne and attain a kingdom greater than my great-grandfather." So that was what he wanted, that he performed Bhakti with that desire. So he's a sakama Bhakta. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sri Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains there's 5 levels of Bhaktas, which we can go into on another session. But there's Prahlad Maharaj, who's a Gyani Bhakta, Ambarish Maharaj, who's a Sudha Bhakta, Hanuman, who's a Premi Bhakta, the Pandavas are Prema Parabhaktas, and there's Uddhava, who's Prema Tora Bhakta. So I can explain that in more detail another time. But Dhruva Maharaj, he's not even within those categories. He's a sakama Bhakta. So in order to attain that, to be able to sit on his father's throne, to get that kingdom greater than his great-grandfather, he performed severe austerities and he gave up everything, even eating or taking in air. Can you imagine how much hard austerities he performed as a 5-year-old child. This is really incredible, inconceivable. Therefore, when Lord Narayan appeared to him, then he didn't even wait for Dhruva to ask him for anything. Lord Narayan immediately told Dhruva, oh, I'm now going to give you the whole universe as your kingdom to rule for 36,000 years. But actually, you know, Dhruva Maharaj at that point, he didn't even want that. He cried out, he said, because once he saw the Lord, the beauty of the Lord, and he realized, he said, oh, I made a big mistake. I was searching for a piece of broken glass. And now I'm so fortunate that I've found this Chintamani stone instead. But now I've again lost it. So that's how he felt. Once he saw the Lord, even a glimpse of the Lord, he had no desire for anything in this world. But because he previously desired that, and Bhagavan, he will fulfill each and every one of your desires. So that's why it's not recommended to perform sakam bhakti, bhakti with other material desires, because they may be fulfilled. They may be fulfilled in such a way that you'll no longer desire again. So anyway, this Dhruva Maharaj, I was telling that actually he couldn't even go to Vaikuntha. Rather, he went to Dhruvaloka, that was situated in Ram Priya Vaikuntha within this universe. Why? Because he had some kasai, some slight contamination or impurity remained in his heart. So due to this kasai, this impurity in his heart, he had some attachment to his mother. And he wanted to see her. Even when he was boarding the airplane to Vaikuntha, he thought of his mother and he thought, oh, he looked around, he looked back, oh, where is my mother? Like this. So for that reason, he couldn't go to Vaikuntha, because if you even got one speck of material desire, you cannot possibly go to Vaikuntha. What to speak of Goloka Vrindavan? Impossible. So he instead went to Dhruvaloka. And Gurudev said, but because he was a disciple of Narad Rishi, such an Uttama Maha Bhagavat Vaishnava, then maybe after some time he attained Vaikuntha, means Vaikuntha in the spiritual world, beyond this universe. So Dhruva is an example of a Sakam Bhakta, a Kami, a Bhakta who has material desires, and he simply worshipped the Lord to attain his material desires, but still eventually those material desires disappeared and pure bhakti manifested in his heart. So if one practices bhakti under the guidance of a pure Vaishnava, a pure guru, then, and one is sincere, this is very important, that one is sincere, that really one may think, oh, I really want to attain Krishna Prema, I really want pure love and devotion to Radha Krishna, but I have so many material desires in my heart, but please, oh Krishna, please ignore those desires, don't fulfill those desires, they may be there but don't fulfill them. Then this is called sincerity, and eventually those desires will disappear and one will attain pure bhakti. So it's said in Srimad Bhagavatam, akama sarakama va makshakama adaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajita purusham param. Whether one is desireless or full of material desires for sense enjoyment, or one desires liberation, anyhow, it doesn't matter whether you're full of material desires, of no desire, desire liberation, it just simply worship Bhagavan Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if one worships Krishna, even with material desires, then and one purely cultivates bhakti, then he will eventually attain bhakti. So this is important, that Krishna, he knows everything. He can see inside our hearts, and he can see that we may be full of material desires. But somehow we've come to this path of bhakti, and we may have come under the guidance of pure Guru and Vaishnavas. And that pure Guru or pure Vaishnava can see in our heart, they can see our material desires. But Krishna is so merciful that he thinks, or maybe pure devotee thinks, that, oh, look, he wants poison. But how can I give poison to him? I don't want to give him poison. I want to give him nectar of bhakti. So in other words, he wants to fulfill his material desires, but Krishna says, how can I do this? Because it's like poison. Rather, I only want to give him bhakti, the nectar of bhakti. But to begin with, then our material desires may even be fulfilled in some way or another. If we're chanting Harinam with material desires, then this is namaparad. And Gurudev said, what's the result of namaparad? Then our material desires may be fulfilled in the beginning or even in the middle. Like Dhruva Maharaj, his desires were fulfilled. But in the end, Krishna will certainly give bhakti if we're sincere and if we continue praying and practicing to become free from all these material desires and only have this one desire of performing pure devotional service. So then we can go on to the next slide. Okay, questions? Okay. We can go. So we were looking at what is Bhakti Yoga, yoga through pure devotional service, path of spiritual realization through devotional service to Bhagavan. What is Bhakti? Bhakti, when we use the term Bhakti, it really means Uttama Bhakti or Siddha Bhakti, pure devotion, which is topmost devotion. And then we looked at what the word Bhakti is derived from. It's derived from the verbal root bhaj, to serve. And this is the condensed explanation of the Srila Rupa Goswami Pad's definition of pure Bhakti. So actually, we can go to the next slide. Oh. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, he gave the best definition of bhakti. He took all the different definitions of bhakti that's there in Srimad Bhagavatam, and he took the essence of those definitions and he compiled it in this verse, Anibalasita Sanyam Jnana Karma Misra. So this verse is the best verse describing bhakti. There's no other definition that comes even close to this definition. It's like the pinnacle of all definitions. So you can just try to understand this, dive deeply into the meaning of this. Okay, so then we can go onto the questions. Oh, sorry. What was the last one? We didn't look at that. Sorry. Uttama or Rupa Sidha Bhakti. What's the meaning of Rupa Sidha Bhakti? What's the meaning of nirguna Bhakti? What's the meaning of Niskama Bhakti, sakama Bhakti? It's very important to know these meanings. And Gurudev said this Srup Siddha Bhakti, Uttama Bhakti, this definition, Anibalasata Sanyangana Kamanavadam, that's like a barometer to help us understand where we're at on our path of devotional service. Okay. So we can go into the questions. Kunamai Tadi.
Okay, so the first question is, what is Bhakti Yoga? So if you'd like to raise your hand, there's nobody on screen right now. So if you want to go in video or you want to use the, there's a little raise hand thing for reactions. Yes, under reactions on Zoom, you can do that too. Wonderful. So who'd like to answer? What is Bhakti Yoga? Shama.
I'll try it.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, you're on mute.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm on mute.
No, I can hear you. It's okay.
Okay. I have made some notes, so I will read. I don't remember it yet. Bhakti Yoga is Bhakt. I like that explaining of the word. Bhaj is serve, to serve. So Bhakti Yoga is the path of spiritual realization through devotional service to Bhagwan, Sri Krishna. And you are performing these activities exclusively for the pleasure of Krishna in a favorable mood and saturated with love.
Very nice. Yes, that's correct. Very good. Very gentle.
Okay, thank you. And the second question is, what is the root verb of the word bhakti and what does it mean? My name.
I moved outside. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear? The root of bhakti is ba, which is to serve.
Bhaj.
And it's like root of bhajan, of bhakti. Probably a Bhagavan too, I guess. I don't know. Is that right? But when I think about Sri Radha Krishna, but that might be getting too deep. But but ba means to serve.
Yeah.
Bhaj, so.
Okay, the next question is, who can recite Rupa Goswami? Oh, sorry. Who can recite Rupa Goswami's definition of bhakti? Or give some translation?
They said we should all know this verse. So if you don't know it by now, then please try to learn it.
Try.
Shama Priya is raising her hand.
Priya.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Srila Rupa Goswami, he says, Anya Bilashita Shunyam, Yana Karma Dhanabhikam, Anukulyena Krishnano,
Silanam Bhakti.
Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. Did I get the
Yes.
last line in the right order?
Yeah.
And then
Yes. Thank you.
the translation is that what is the translation? I don't think I'll get it word for word, but just
Doesn't matter. Even to try means bhakti. So even if you try and you make a mistake, it's okay.
Okay, so then bhakti is pure devotional service. It's the performance of pure devotional service for the pleasure of Sri Krishna, devoid of in a favorable mood, devoid of any other desire, such as karma, knowledge gained at impersonal liberation, or Gyan. Sorry, Gyan, knowledge gained at impersonal liberation, or karma, fruits of activity. I'm missing something.
So the cultivation of activities or the uninterrupted flow of service to Shri Krishna that is performed through, did you say that?
That is performed through endeavors of mind,
Yes.
speech, and body.
Body.
Thank you. And then
And it's meant for
meant exclusively for the pleasure of Sri Krishna,
Yes.
without the desire of karma
Or Gyan,
or Gyan.
or yoga, or austerities, or anything. Yeah. Mhm. So it's completely free from all desires other than the desire or aspiration to bring about benefit to Sri Krishna. Very good. That was very good.
That word sunyam means zero in Hindi. Sunyam is zero. So no
Devoid
other
of, devoid of, yeah.
Yes, devoid of.
Mhm.
Zero other desires.
Yes, that's right. Okay, so then
Next is what is Swarup Siddha Bhakti? So Swarup Siddha Bhakti. And what is it synonymous with? If someone would like to answer that. Oh, I think Manini.
Yeah, Swarup Siddha Bhakti is synonymous with Uttama Bhakti. Is that what you're asking? Yes.
Yeah.
Haribol. Yeah.
And can you say something a little more?
Uttama Bhakti meaning pure, I would say, pure Bhakti, where it is, it's like the Navada Bhakti.
Yes.
I would also say Swarup Siddha Bhakti means that you are actually having realization of your actual service as your true self.
Well, that's the aim. That is the aim.
Aim. That's the aim. So you're going toward that, having progressive stages of realization and understanding.
Through Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So
Archanam, Archanam related. Yes.
Okay, great. The next question is, what is Nirguna Bhakti and what are the other names of pure devotion? What is Nirguna Bhakti and what are some of the other names of pure devotion? Oh, Shaman Priya, your hand's still up.
I wonder if I can answer part of the question.
Yes, go ahead.
Nirguna Bhakti, I remember hearing that Nirguna is that it's not under the influence of any of the three modes.
That's right.
And then, sorry, what was the rest of the question again?
What are some of the other names of pure bhakti or pure devotion? Sorry.
So one you mentioned in the last question, that was Swarup Siddhi.
Yes, Swarup Siddha Bhakti is one. Kevala Bhakti, I don't know if anyone can remember any others. Ananya Bhakti.
Ananya.
And the Kinchana Bhakti, Visuddha Bhakti. There's so many different names, but they all mean more or less the same. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you. And then the last question is, what is Niskama Bhakti and what is sakama Bhakti? Oh, Vishadadasi? Oh, we can't hear you. You're on mute. Oh, you're on mute still.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so performance of bhakti without desires for material results.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So Niskama Bhakti, one doesn't have any desires to get anything, get the result.
Yeah.
And then the other part of the question is, what is sakama Bhakti?
Sakama Bhakti is the performance of bhakti with the purpose to get material desires.
Fulfilled.
The opposite, basically.
Yeah, it's the opposite, exactly.
Yeah, it's the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Is that all the questions so far? Purnamai, did he? Is there any more? No,
not for this set.
All right, so we'll just do a couple more slides so we can get through. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Krishna Priya, did he? Thanks. Okay. Oh, after that. Okay, Mishra Bhakti. So we just explained what is sakama Bhakti, Bhakti performed with material desires, which is actually mixed devotion.
You're wearing deodorant on, please.
Oh, there's some background noise there. Okay. So Uttama Bhakti also implies the existence of Adama Bhakti or Mishra Bhakti, inferior or mixed devotion. Okay, so Adama Bhakti means inferior devotion and Mishra Bhakti means mixed devotion. So Karma Misra Bhakti or Karma Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti. So Pradhani Bhuta means principally inherent. So this means Karma Misra Bhakti or Karma Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti means devotion mixed with the performance of prescribed duty, with devotion predominating. Okay, and then Jnana Mishra Bhakti or Jnana Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti is devotion mixed with knowledge, with devotion predominating. So yeah. Okay, talk about this. So these words can be interchanged, Karma Misra Bhakti or Karma Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti or Jnana Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti. It means the same thing. So you could say that actually there's also Bhakti Mishra Gyan and Bhakti Mishra Karma. You know, so there's so many varieties. So instead of Bhakti being predominant in Karma Mishra Bhakti or Jnana Mishra Bhakti, then if Karma's predominating, then that would be called Bhakti Mishra Karma. And if Jnana's predominating, that would be called Bhakti Mishra Gyan. So there's all kinds of categories or definitions like that. So by performing Karma Mishra Bhakti or Karma Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti, that then gradually purifies the heart, and then one will get Tattva Gyan. That means some knowledge of Tattva, maybe like Bhakti Tattva eventually. So the result of performing Gyan then would be Jnana Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti. So the result of performing that Jnana Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti would be maybe mukti, liberation, if one has that desire. So obviously it's best not to desire that, but it's only by performing Krishna Bhakti, Bhakti Yoga that aims at Tattva Gyan, then that Jnana Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti will then result in, you know, going towards Bhakti, you could say. So so when one performs Karma Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti or Jnana Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti that aims at Kevala Bhakti, that's really to be known as Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga. I'll say that again. So only when one performs Karma Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti or Karma Misra Bhakti or Gyana Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti or Jnana Misra Bhakti that's aimed at Kevala Bhakti or Sudha Bhakti, then that's to be known as Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga in the true sense. So these are steps towards Bhakti. And without Bhakti, then Karma and Gyan in and of themselves are not direct sadhan to attain Bhagavan. So there has to be some touch of Bhakti. And this is then on the path to attaining Bhakti. Actually, this is on the path to attaining the sadhan, at least, the direct sadhan to be able to enter into bhakti. So that karma gyan that's devoid of a sense of Bhagavad Tattva is futile. So there has to be some touch, otherwise it's a complete waste of time. And, you know, one will never attain anywhere near pure bhakti from Bhagavan. So when the heart becomes purified by following karma yoga mixed with bhakti, or it's called Bhagavan Arpita Karma, that's offering the fruits of one's activities to Bhagavan, as described in the Vedas, then Bhagavad Tattva will appear there. So along with the appearance of that Tattva Gyan, then Kevala Bhakti or Suddha Bhakti will manifest in the heart. So I don't know if anyone understood that, but I could repeat it again if you want. So when the heart becomes purified by karma yoga mixed with bhakti, or what's called Bhagavad Arpita Karma, which means offering the fruits of one's activities to Bhagavan, then that Bhagavad Tattva Gyan will then appear, manifest in the heart, and along with that Tattva Gyan, Suddha Bhakti will eventually manifest in the heart. So Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, he's explained all these different types of bhakti, and it's described that Rupa Goswami is like a swan who's separated the milk from the water in an unambiguous and in crystal clear words. He's explained the difference between all the different types of bhakti. So it's explained what is Uttama Bhakti, what is Aropa Sidha Bhakti, what is Karma Misra Bhakti, what is Gyan Misra Bhakti, Aropa Sidha Bhakti, Sangha Sidha Bhakti, all these different types of bhakti. And if it wasn't for him, then we would have no idea what is pure bhakti and what is not pure bhakti, what is mixed bhakti. So we're really indebted to Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, and it's his disappearance day coming up. So it's good to give credit to him for what he's given, actually. All these definitions come from him. So Gurudev, he used to give the example that if one is really thirsty and he's really needing water, so you may go to someone and say, please, I'm so thirsty, can you give me some water? And that person may say, okay, so what kind of water do you want? Would you like some sea water? Would you like me to go to the ocean and get some salty seawater? Or would you like me to collect some water from the river? There's a river close by. Or would you like me to collect some water from the stream? There's a stream not so far away. Or would you like me to collect some water from the drain? The drain's just outside. You can easily get water from there. Or would you like me to get some fresh, pure water from the well? So if someone is intelligent, they will say, well, actually, I don't want any salty seawater. I don't want any water from the river that's maybe contaminated with God knows what, or any water from the stream, or any water from the drain. I certainly don't want that to drink. I only want fresh, clean, pure water from the well. So in the same way, bhakti is pure bhakti. When we use the word bhakti, we're referring to Suddha Bhakti. And it's like that pure water that you get from a pure well. And all other types of bhakti are contaminated, like Karma Misra Bhakti, Gyan Misra Bhakti, like I said, Aropa Sidha Bhakti, Sangha Sidha Bhakti, which we'll talk about later. And it's like that water that's got some contamination in it, like salt or some germs or dirt, you know. So actually, we don't want to drink that. In the same way, we don't want to to practice anything that besides pure bhakti. We don't really want to practice this Karma Misra Bhakti or Jnana Misra Bhakti because it won't give us pure bhakti. So Gurudev said one must learn how to practice bhakti. He must learn what is bhakti, what is not bhakti, what is sakama bhakti, Niskama Bhakti, Aropa Sidha Bhakti, Sidha Bhakti, nirguna Bhakti, Uttama Bhakti, Rupa Bhakti. We must learn what are all these different types of bhakti so that we can first understand what is pure bhakti, and then, like I said, that is that definition verse, Anibalasatasaniyam Gyana Karma Misra. It's like a barometer to understand this is pure bhakti and everything else is not pure bhakti, it's mixed bhakti. So this pure bhakti, it's not so easy to find. Bhakti is very rare. Bhakti is sudurlabha. And the reality is that most devotees are performing mixed bhakti. So it's essential for an aspiring devotee to know all these truths. Otherwise, they'll be performing all kinds of other bhakti that's not real bhakti and thinking it's real bhakti. So then we can go on to the next slide. Okay, so questions. So we can go back. So what is Mishra Bhakti, mixed devotion? So in order to understand mixed devotion, we have to first understand what is Uttama Bhakti, and that implies also the existence of a Dharma Bhakti or Mishra Bhakti. So what is Karma Misra Bhakti or Karma Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti? We can try to understand. It's mixed devotion where Bhakti is predominating, but it's mixed with material desires and all these things. Jnana Misra Bhakti, it's Bhakti, but it's not real Bhakti, it's mixed with Gyan. Okay, so then we can go on to the next slide. Okay, questions. So.
All right. The first question is, what is Karma Misra Bhakti and what is another name for Karma Misra Bhakti?
Yeah, do you want to answer?
No, you do it.
No, yours.
I don't know it.
Okay, Haribol. Karma Misra Bhakti is also Karma Pradhana Bhuta Bhakti, which is when you have a mixture of your devotion and also this, the sense of activities you're doing for yourself or prescribed activities, but with devotion predominating.
Right.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you. The next question is, what is Gyan Misra Bhakti and what is another name for Gyan Misra Bhakti?
Okay, so Gyan Misra Bhakti is also Gyan Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti, and it is the devotion mixed with more of a search for knowledge. I actually, can I say how I actually conceive of it? I think of it like the game of life, and you can play karma games, you can play knowledge games, you can play bhakti games. And as we're moving up that, like those platforms of games of life, then there's, the transitional parts, where there's a little bit of like, you're kind of doing both, right? And the very beginning, karma is predominating, and then devotion starts to predominate. You go towards knowledge, and then knowledge is kind of predominating for a while, and then you become, my devotion, and the devotion predominates, and then ultimately you work toward bhakti, Uttama Bhakti. That's one way I think of it. Haribol.
Next question is, what is Aropa Sidha Bhakti and what?
That's we didn't go onto that slide yet.
Okay. In that case, I am going to have to ask. I'm going to have to leave, and
okay. Well, what we'll do, I think, is I was going to go on to speak about Aropa Sidha Bhakti and Sangha Siddha Bhakti. So we'll leave that till next time because, you know, that's quite a lot to digest. And,
Yes.
and it's important to know all these terms. What is Aropa Sidha Bhakti? What is Sangha Siddha Bhakti? Gurudev used to use this terminology a lot. And he gave so many explanations and so many examples. So it's really good to know what are these definitions and explanations and examples. So we can go into that next time and go further into Bhakti Tattva. All right, so that's it for now, I think. And I don't know if anyone's got any questions.
I've got a question.
I think Shona has a question.
Yeah, I have a question. So I'm trying to look at the jnana.
Gyan.
Bhakti.
You pronounce it like a gya.
Gyan.
The JN is pronounced like a gya. So it's Gyan.
Gyan.
Perfect.
Gyan Misra Bhakti or Gyan Prabhani Buddha Bhakti. I mean, is there like on the Uttama or at the beginning, is there another Bhakti that kind of coincides with this one at all? Like at the beginning, we were going through other types of Bhakti, but
Oh, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga.
is this like the last part of Bhakti? I mean, is this like the goal for most people to get to this point?
The goal is Uttama Bhakti.
Uttama Bhakti.
That's right.
Where you don't have any Gyan and knowledge. It's Anyabilasita Shunyam, Gyana Kanam Nabritam, Anukulen Krishna Usila and Bhakti Uttama, where you have an uninterrupted flow of service to Sri Radha and Krishna.
Okay.
I would say it's like in the Bible says, love the Lord your God with all your mind, soul, strength, health.
Yeah. Yes. So the point is, think of all these different types of yoga or different types of bhakti. It's like a ladder. It's described like a ladder. So on a ladder, you've got different rungs on the ladder. So you may kind of reach to one or maybe the first step of the ladder. And then you fix yourself firmly on that rung of the ladder. And then you look up towards the next step. And then you take a step towards that. And then your other foot comes. And then you situate yourself firmly on the step of that rung of the ladder. And like this. And we're always looking up to what is the goal. And, you know, some people, they may start off with Karma Yoga, for example. Then on the path of Karma Yoga, they may see jnana as that goal, you know, Jnana Yoga. So then gradually they work the way up towards Jnana Yoga, and then they firmly fix themselves on the rung of that ladder, the yoga ladder, on the rung of Jnana Yoga. And then practicing, what's the next step to Jnana Yoga is Bhakti Yoga. So some people would say, oh no, Jnana Yoga is the topmost goal, but actually it's not. This is a very secret thing that in Bhagavad Gita, the last 6 chapters are about Jnana Yoga. The first 6 chapters about Karma Yoga. And in the middle, sandwiched in between, is Bhakti Yoga. And that may look like, oh, well, you know, Bhakti Yoga isn't as high as Jnana Yoga, but it's actually the treasure that's hidden.
I think that's what my question was, is does Gyan at some point coincide, like maybe with the Bhakti Yoga on some kind of level? Or, I mean, is there any equivalence in any of the other yogas that kind of fall in? That's what I was wondering. But so Bhakti is beyond. Without Bhakti, there's really none. I mean, this stuff is not as potent.
I mean, even if you want to gain perfection in Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga, you have to have a touch of Bhakti. Otherwise, you can't even get success in those different types of yoga. And ultimately we want to attain bhakti that's free from karma gyan. It's not mixed at all. So when you see someone with a pure white cloth, for example, you say, wow, that's so beautiful, pure white. But if there's any spot, black spot on that white cloth, you'll notice it, right? So Krishna's the same. He will see, you know, what's in your heart, how much bhakti you have, what kind of bhakti you have. If you have pure devotion or not, he'll see that if that's bhakti is mixed with any type of karma, gyan, like that, and that would be like those black spots, you see. So ultimately, we want to strive to practice Uttama Bhakti, Rupa Siddha Bhakti, and that is the means and that is the goal. So it's not so easy, but by association, it's possible. By association with a pure devotee, it is possible. Right now.
Charu, may I ask something too? Is it the case, I don't know if I didn't hear everything necessarily was said, but for Mayavadis, they are actually going for Gyan, right? Because they don't have that personal conception to be devoted to. So in that sense, and our world is largely Mayavad now, you know, it's fair to say that knowledge then becomes that topmost goal because they can't see Bhagavan beyond it. Is that an accurate conception?
Yes, but even that knowledge, it's only, you know, there's three aspects to Bhagavan. So there's Brahm, there's Paramatma, and there's Bhagavan, or three different, you could say.
Right.
Bhagavan. So the aspect of Brahm, this is not complete at all. So it's only partial. So what the Gyanis will experience is only some partial experience of Bhagavan. They won't get the full experience. So
they're just getting the effulgence off the lotus feet.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was saying they're getting the effulgence off the lotus feet.
Yes,
really?
Exactly. The effulgence, yeah. Yeah.
Which
So
is still liberation. So it feels good because they're still liberating themselves from some of the misery of the suffering, right?
But yes, you know, liberation is one goal, but it's not the ultimate goal. And actually the soul will never be satisfied, even if one attains so-called liberation, because the soul by nature is active. So the soul by nature wants to serve Krishna. And if the soul is not in connection with Bhagavan and serving Bhagavan through love and devotion, then the soul will never, ever feel satisfied at all. And therefore, even if one attains liberation, then the soul will still be hankering for that connection. And eventually the soul, even if one attains the Brahma Jyoti, for example, one will still fall down back to this earthly planet and have to kind of start again. So it's actually futile. So we want, you know, we're striving for happiness. Everyone in this world is striving for happiness. But if you want to experience Satchit Ananda, that means eternality, full knowledge and bliss, then one has to practice bhakti, you know, to attain Bhagavan, or actually not even to attain Bhagavan, but to attain prem, pure love for Bhagavan. So.
Thank you for those distinctions.
Okay, thank you. And does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I had a question.
Yes.
Ishama Priya, I just wanted to ask you, you mentioned before about the chapters of the Bhagavad Gita and the arrangement. I just wanted to know how important it is to know, because you mentioned about the order. All I remember is that you said Bhakti Yoga was in the middle, basically, and you were talking about there usually being a gradation. But did you mention some significance in that?
Yeah, in Bhagavad Gita.
In Bhakti Yoga.
I couldn't hear your whole question because the connection's not so good, but from what I understand, you're asking what is the significance of Bhakti, the chapters on Bhakti Yoga being in the middle. instead of like at the end. So Gurudev and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Gurudev explains that it's just like a treasure chest, and there's a base to the treasure chest, there's a lid to the treasure chest, but no one's really interested so much in the base and the lid. The base may be made of copper or whatever. The lid may be made of silver. But what the person is interested in is what is inside that treasure chest, and what's inside is like a Chintamani. Chintamani is like the best gem, the best jewel that will fulfill all your desires, and that's compared to be like Bhakti. So it's Bhakti is very confidential. It's like she's hidden, and she doesn't necessarily reveal herself to each and every person. Like she won't certainly reveal herself to a Mayavadi who wants liberation or like this. So does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Is there any other questions, or should we end here?
I have one.
Yes. Yeah, go on. Charachandrika Didi. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. Did I understand it well if I say the best way to do bhakti, do karma yoga or Gyan yoga is to mix it with bhakti and then eventually slowly become so purified also through Gyan and karma, so rituals and knowledge, gaining of knowledge, that you purify so well that you actually get the taste of bhakti and come into bhakti yoga, fall in the treasure chest.
Right. The thing is, it's best not to do any kind of mixed bhakti at all.
No. That, I mean, that's the growth for people that are already practicing Krishna consciousness. It's Ananya Bhakti, only Krishna and nothing else. But it's that, maybe that's the way people grow depending on the level, where the consciousness level. You slowly grow from that, because most people are doing, in my country, we live with many Indians. Yeah, they are doing karma yoga.
Yes, I understand.
Rituals and so, and they never hear anything about that. This is not the goal. This is not
but
the goal.
Thing is, Charachandrika, you could practice karma yoga or jnana yoga for many years or many lifetimes even. But if you don't understand that bhakti yoga is the goal and the prem is the ultimate goal, Krishna prem, then you're never necessarily going to attain that. So that's why it's discouraged to practice karma yoga or jnana yoga. But if you are practicing, and by some like Sukriti, Bhakti Sukriti, then you get to meet Vaishnav, then that Vaishnav may enlighten you as to what is the topmost path, which is Bhakti Yoga, and how to practice Bhakti in order to attain Krishna Prem. So, excellent. Okay, so did anyone else have any other questions?
No, thank you so much.
Thank you, Didi. Thanks. Was there one other question?
I had one other question.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, did you give this presentation before? Because I feel like I've seen it before and I wasn't really able to understand it as much before, but you've never done this? I don't know why I feel like I've seen it. Okay.
It's probably, you must have some good samskars, some impressions from past lives or this life. And you've heard from someone much more qualified than me.
No, I thought I'd really seen you do this before. Okay, thank you.
I mean, she's done a different class, this is the 9th class, so
okay,
there's always slides.
Yeah.
Haribol.
Thank you.
Okay.
Haribol.
So we can maybe finish there. Thank you so much for your attention. I know there's lots of terminology and maybe you've never heard some of the terms before, but it's good to get familiar with these terms and their meanings, and you know, this comparison is good to know what is bhakti, what is not bhakti, and like that. So we can finish there. And Manini Radhadidi, would you like to sing with your guitar? Nice. Yeah.
Haribol, I'm going to bring this back in so that I can take it because we came outside. You want to carry that? You can. All right. Give me 1 sec.
She's going to get her guitar.
Yeah, nice.
Didi, thank you so much. It's so, for first time I understood why
She's gonna
the
sing a
part
song.
of Bhakti Yoga is in the middle, in the Bhagavad.
Okay, that's
I love
good.
it. I love it. I love it
Thank you.
so much.
Yeah.
I was always wondering, but I never had asked someone, and today you explained it.
Yeah. Yeah, Vishnu Chakravarti explains that. So very nice explanation.
And you brought it to us. Thank you.
Okay. So Manini Radhadidi, you ready there?
Yes. Yes. I'm going to
So
my
Manini
best.
Radhadidi is our Bob Dylan of Kirtaniyas.
I'm not such a great kirtaniya, but I am practicing to do more traditional bhajans, as you know, charu. So I'm going to try to do the Australian tune, and you guys are welcome to sing it with. I mean, you know, unmute or whatever. Okay.
Right.
Oh, let me see. My tongue better like this. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Wait, let me make sure I can play it first. Sorry. Krishna, Krishna. Oh, I got it. All right. Sorry. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai. Jai. Guru Deva Jai, Guru Deva Jai, Guru Deva Jai, Guru Deva Jai, Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada Jai, Prabhupada Jai, Guru Parampara, Guru Parampara, Guru Parampara, Guru Parampara, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora, Haribo, Nitai Gora, Haribo, Haribo, Haribol.
Jai.
Dandavats. I'll get better at playing, but Dandavats.
Oh, no, that was great.
So great.
Really beautiful. And I like the harmonics as well, as you call it, the harmony in the with Yashoda, Didi. That sounded so beautiful. You should sing together more often. Sounds
Yeah.
That's great. All right. So we can unmute and if you want to open your videos just for a few minutes, say Haribol.
Haribol.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Didi. Thank you.
Looks so one of my cousins. Okay. All right.
Beautiful singing, Manini.
Yeah. Also, the echo.
Oh no, sorry. I don't know what's going on with that.
Okay. All right. Thanks ever so much, everyone. And yeah, it was great being with you here today. And I missed last time. It's been a little while because we missed the last Bhakti Basics. So now we're on track again, hopefully. So the next one will be in 2 weeks. And next Friday will be Gude Vani Vaishnavi Picard, if anyone wants to join that also. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Charity.
Pranams to everyone. Hari Bol. And you can finish the recording. Is it possible to invite it or?